Active. Good afternoon. I'm here with Terry Rytz from the band Cuecliche, based in London, but Terry's originally from Liverpool. Say hello, Terry.
Hi, everyone.
So, you're going to know from if you've watched this before, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about it's almost like the front man of the band, the stuff you go through as a front man, songwriter, front person, because obviously we've got all them ladies out there absolutely slaying it as well. So basically what I want to dart into, Terry, straight away is how you're dealing with coronavirus, what's it doing to the band, and more importantly, you're looking after yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a mad situation, isn't it? Like, you just don't think you're in this. Obviously, we had like the biggest gig of our lives all ready to go. We were playing with the Plain White Tees in a local venue, and we were, we lost our drummer last year, so we struggled a bit about getting it all sorted. But then we were very grateful that the drummer from Jake's other band, Prepare to Ruin, jumped in and he was going to cover for us. We were rehearsing like heavy. That's all we'd done this year was get ready for this one gig, and then they pulled out and it was all cancelled. And that was sort of the beginning of it all, of sort of how serious it was. So that was a massive blow for us. And then Jake's got a young family, and he's got really, really bad asthma and stuff. So he sort of went into isolation quite quickly. So I've not seen him now since February. So we're constantly texting and on the phone a lot. But we're sort of trying to decide what to do, because we were in the middle of writing our third EP, quite heavy into it. And now you're seeing loads of bands doing these great things with obviously Zoom videos and doing covers and stuff, like Goldfinger doing some brilliant stuff. So we sort of spent the entire time talking about what we want to do with that, and instead of like getting stuff done. So we're looking at doing some covers and stuff, and I'm talking to Jake a lot. But both really well, and lots of ideas in the pipeline, and just sitting on this EP that's halfway through done.
Obviously, as you said there, you've had some troubles with drummers coming and going, like my band as well. But do you find that at the moment people are connecting a little bit more as in terms of like artist to artist? Do you feel like there's more avenues for you sort of get in touch with other bands or other musicians? And I mean, like I know with friends of mine, they're finding that drummers are coming out of the woodwork, obviously because they are essentially like gold dust trying to find a drummer who stays around. Are you finding that yourselves? You're making new connections and such?
Well, we had a few guys lined up and stuff, and obviously we were going to straight after the gig we had lined up, we were going to start auditioning people, but we sort of they all faded away. I've sort of said, we'll get back in touch when this is all over, see where things stand. So for us, it's been quite the opposite. We really sort of struggled, because you don't know how long it's going to last and how long we're going to be, waiting around for, and what people's situations are going to be. Obviously, in London, I'd say, I haven't got any facts and figures on this, but most people sort of, they move to London and then move away after a certain period of time. So that's what's happened with our most recent drummer, Jeremy. He's moved here, worked for a bit, and now him and his partner have moved to Canada. So people sort of hop in and out of London. So that's quite difficult for us. So, by the time this is all over, who knows who's going to stick around in London. So it's one of those we're going to have to start fresh once it's all over, really, which will be, we'll be starting a bit behind on everyone else, which would be a bit of a shame.
So as you were saying, you were talking about setting to work on your third EP, as you said, you're in the middle of it. In terms of like from your very origins, do you feel your approach to songwriting has changed? Do you feel like you collaborate more between the two of you guys, or is it very much a case of I've got this song, take a look?
So we work in a really, really interesting way, which sort of has come from the very first meeting of me and Jake, and has been the same ever since. So me and Jake, I went to see Blink play acoustically here in London when they first came over with Skiba. And after that, I thought, I need to get back into music. I hadn't been playing for 9 years. So I put this ad up on Gumtree looking for a guitarist. And I went around and I met a few and just didn't click. And then me and Jake just really, really got on. And we said, let's try writing a song together. I'll send you some stuff I've got. You send me some stuff and see where we go from there. So I sent him this piece of crap sort of recording I'd done on my phone of me and an acoustic guitar, proper cheesy 4 chords, really awful song. And he sent me these 5 or 6 music tracks, fully produced, sounded amazing. And I was just I was really embarrassed after. I was like, oh wow. So we said that. So after that, we decided to get together and we just picked one of these music tracks he sent me and we wrote the lyrics to it together. And that was One Last Chance. So that was the first song we ever wrote together. Yeah. It was the second time we ever met. We sat in this room. And that's been our process ever since. Jake will go away, he'll do the music and stuff, and then he'll come to me with like these blank pieces of music and he'll say, this one, and this one, I think should be a co-write. I've got some ideas for this one. I'm blank on this one. You should try this. And it sort of goes from there. So that was the first EP was just all, I think it was all co-writes. I think Crazy Little Princess, I wrote the lyrics to. Lost Boys Anthem, I wrote the lyrics to, and then Jake sort of looked at it and cut it all down, because the second verse to Lost Boys Anthem was like 3 times longer,
Yeah.
and Jake just cut it right down to a lot shorter. And so yeah, again with the second EP, Jake came up with a lot of music tracks, but this time he had lyrics for pretty much most of them. I think it was just I forgot the name of my own songs now. Puzzle Piece and Prince of Nowhere I put lyrics to, but the other 3, he had already, because Take It Away was meant to be on the first EP, so that was all ready to go. And now this time again, we've gone back to sort of the way we did it the first time, because I really enjoy it when we sit in a room together and write songs together. So that was how this EP was working before coronavirus came along and changed that process.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose, again, going back to the songwriting sort of situation, obviously, there's, for those who've been in bands and those who aren't, there's certain people who take on certain roles. I mean, for me, obviously, meeting the band a couple of times now, it's you're very much the mouthpiece. You're the person who pushes the gigs. You're the person who makes the connections. When you're at the gig, you're sort of talking to the people who are at the gig, sort of pushing the merch, that sort of gimmick. Do you find, as that member of the band, that you sort of afford the rest of the band some sort of freedom to be a little bit lax, I guess? That's what I'm saying. It's like, or because you have that dynamic with Jake, that where he is writing a lot of the music side of things, do you feel it's almost like a duty to do that yourself?
Well, yeah, it is pretty much. We sort of agreed very early on the music side of things. Like when I say the music side, I just mean the music. So the lyrics and stuff we work on together mostly, but the music itself, that's 100% Jake.
Yeah.
So yeah, he just does all of that. He'll just come to me with those tracks finished, and I work in sort of production, advertising, etc. So I sort of take on that side of things. And that's always sort of how it's kind of been. Do I afford them a bit of to be lax a bit? I'd say I probably do. Jake would say I probably don't. If you look at mine and Jake's text conversations, for every 1 message I send him, no, for every 10 messages I send him, I'll have 1 back. So like, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this. And I'll be like, yeah, maybe no, that'll come in a later stage. And I went to see Jake play with his other band, Repair to Ruin, when he cheats on me every now and again with them. And his dad was there. And his dad pulled me into a room separately and goes, "You need to push Jake more." I was like, "What?" He goes, "You guys are brilliant. I love when you write songs together." This song, he said that Prince of Nowhere was one of his favorite songs ever. And he makes me take my headphones and give them to all his friends. And listen to this. This is Jake's other band. He said, "You need to push Jake more. You need to do this with him more." So I think Jake's dad is probably one of the driving forces behind the band at the minute. He's a really great guy. But no, I wouldn't say lax. I mean, we're in very different situations as well, me and Jake. Obviously, I'm here in London on my own, and Jake lives with a young family, 2 kids that he's got to ferry to and from school all the time and look after quite a lot. Obviously now he's looking after them every day. But while this is going, he's throwing 2 or 3 new tracks at me, so he's been busy.
Do you feel
drummers we've had?
Pardon, say again.
So the drummers we've had somewhere, maybe I could argue, have been a bit lax more than others.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. But I suppose the leads me on to my next question. Given obviously the age that like you are as a band, and that we all have separate lives that sort of go around it, is the sort of the aim to sort of achieve the impossible and like tour and such compromised by the fact that you have this real life, this sort of this real job, this real sort of responsibility, especially as a lad of your age living in London alone. The drive has got to be on making sure that you have the money to pay the bills. So does music sort of become a secondary thing? Dare say a hobby?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so when I went to this Blink gig that I mentioned, I came out of that and thought, I just want to play music with someone again. So, the idea was just to sit in someone's house and jam every now and again, just to pick up my bass and remember how to do it. And it very quickly went from that to playing gigs. So I never really expected to go into playing gigs, and then we were recording EPs and stuff. So it was just, it was literally, my intention wasn't even to make it a hobby. It was just to make a social thing every now and again. And it sort of ran away from there. With regards to it being a dream and such, I just sort of think, obviously that is the dream, for you, for me, for everyone, is to one day that miraculous discovery to happen. But as I say, I'd gone 9 years without music. I was just really grateful to be playing with somebody, and so that was great. And then I was releasing EPs, and that was great. So I've heard a lot of bands out there that haven't made it. They're a lot better than bands that have, and I've heard a lot of bands out there that have made it that are worse. So there's a lot of potluck to it. So my focus, and I think Jake's focus of both of us is to just have as much fun with it and hope for the best, push it as hard as we can. And with regards to life getting in the way, oh yeah, definitely. We're very, very lucky in the sense that Jake's freelance and his hours can be very flexible. And my working schedule is a 7-day week, so 7-day fortnight, sorry. So I'll be in 3 days, off for 4, in 4 days, off for 3. So we do have those sort of, the company I work for have been very flexible with me as well. So we have been very lucky at times, but obviously there are always times where life gets in the way, family, kids, work. There are just some things that you can't get out of. So that always has to take priorities because, as you say, it pays the bills.
Okay. So going back to the songwriting aspect of this conversation. So in terms of artists who inspire you, both locally and on the bigger stage, is there anybody that you could firmly sort of look at and go, this is my muse, this is the person who I sort of want to be in music for?
Well, 100%. So, I mean, the first person to really, really inspire me as a kid was I was really, really into Bon Jovi. I was obsessed with Bon Jovi. And then it went like, I mean, like I can show you here, I've got DVDs, I've got every album up into a certain one. I think about 20 albums down there. I've got DVDs, I've got books. I was obsessed with Bon Jovi. I taped on a VHS tape, VH1, if you remember that channel, they used to show like live concerts every week. And I'd tape Bon Jovi concerts and I just used to sit and watch him. I remember it was in Times Square and just the way this tiny man orchestrated everybody, it was incredible. So that was a huge inspiration initially. Then I grew sort of matured in my music sense and went to Lincoln Park, absolutely adored Chester Bennington. And that was the start of my weird hair dyeing sort of thing. I went blonde not long after getting into Lincoln Park. And then I went to see Blink-182 play. Just a friend of mine had asked 2 different friend groups to get him tickets. And they both had. He's like, oh, I've got these 2 spare tickets for Blink. Do you want to go and see them? Like, yeah. I was into Blink. I had Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. I thought it was a great album, but I didn't know much more than that because that album was quite new at the time, and I was still finding bits of music. And I went and I saw, and I was just fascinated by this Mark Hoppus. He was just incredible. He was funny. He had so much fun on stage. That I looked at him and thought I could probably do that. And I went away and I borrowed a bass from a friend and sort of learned from there. So Mark Hoppus is probably the biggest by a huge stretch. Like he was the guy who just wowed me in every sense. So he was the reason I picked up a bass. And then obviously, as I say, keep going back to these 9 years off. It was then I went to see Blink again and thought I want to do this again. And that was down to just how much fun it looked like he was having.
Okay. I mean, I guess obviously in terms of the positives and such, is there anything about doing what you do as a frontman in a band that really sort of, I don't want to say sort of hurt you, but sort of, if you ever come off stage and you feel like, fuck, that's really, really gotten to me, that is there anything that sort of will tip the scales in the negative way when you're performing? Is there anything that sort of really gets to you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put blame on any other people here with this, but it's just whenever there's really bad. Sorry, I've lost you there, Seth.
We're back. Yeah.
Excellent. Sorry, so you're just asking if anything that sort of hurts me. Yeah, definitely. It's you there?
Yeah, still there. Still got you.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, it's I think sometimes you just have like when you have really, really bad sound, and no matter how well you play, like it's just not going to sound good, and everyone's going to. We played this gig once at a really cool venue in London, and the sound guy had this really cool iPad where you could sort of control the sound system from the iPad, and we had the sound check, and we thought we sounded great, and then the minute we went out on stage, like from the second song in, you could just tell all you could hear in the mix was bass, and I am not good enough to be that ahead of everyone. And it wasn't just like, oh, the bass is a bit loud. It was just, you can feel it in your soul. And it was every song. Can you just turn the bass down, mate? Can you just turn the bass down, mate? And it was just horrible. And we walked off stage and Jake just turned around at me and said, well, your bass was definitely there, wasn't it? So I think that, I mean, we're very, very lucky. We, work with some amazing sound people, and it's not an issue that comes up much, but that is the one thing that just hurts, that you'll have all this practice, work so hard, and something you're so out of control of sort of ruins it. That's one that hurts.
Do you feel that maybe comes from venues investing in the potential economically as opposed to musically as a venue?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, this particular venue, as I say, the sound system was brand new. It was fantastic. It was all digitally controlled. I just think sometimes it's I don't know where the blame lies. It's just, I have to say, it's happened so few times. That was just one moment that stuck out. And then there was another time we played in a tiny, awful venue where the sound guy was also the doorman, was also the barman, was also, that was a weird situation. That was pretty awful. I mean, I think you're probably right in that sense. Some bars will prioritize music, quality over that, and some won't.
Okay. So if going forward, what's the plans for the band? What do you want to be doing?
So obviously obviously finding a drummer is very high on the list. Finishing EP3, it was just such a knife to the heart, really, because it sounds so cliche, but this EP was just, it was huge. Like we were really, really pushing a lot of stuff, and like we wrote one song and Jake said, "This is definitely the best song we've ever written." Then we wrote a second song and Jake, "No, this is the best song we've ever written." And that sort of momentum kept going. So that was really, really cool. And that's just sort of stopped now because obviously we wanted to do it in the same room and we can't for the minute. So that was a hammer blow. So the plan after this is definitely get that finished, hit the ground as soon as this is all over, hit the ground running with that, have a big year like we did 2 years ago when we did the EP tour with you guys in Liverpool. So definitely get that, and probably push that harder than we've ever pushed anything before. We're looking at maybe working with PR companies for the first time and things like that we're talking about. Gigs and stuff, we want to try and get them booked up as soon as possible. I'm talking to the guys at Outpost. I've said to them, as soon as this is all over, the first thing I want to do is take the band up there and see all my friends and have a lot of fun up there with those guys, eat some great pizza and just play the music. What is obviously one of my favorite venues, been in my home city, and have a lot of fun. But gigs, tours, the new EP is going to be huge. And then this time around, we want to do more videos. We didn't do any videos for the second EP, so we definitely want to do more of that.
All right. So just a couple more things before we go. First is obviously, given it's a hard time for everyone at the moment, but in terms of musicians and that, what do you feel people can be doing who love music to support the scenes they're in? What would you sort of say to people if they've got a little bit of extra money? About what would you like to see them doing to help sort of the music scene survive and thrive through this hard time?
It's not even just about money. I mean, like everyone out there these days has got Spotify and Apple accounts. How many actually go and listen to unsigned music? I mean, I put together a playlist in a pop punk Facebook group for bands within the group. And like when I first made it, I asked everybody who was on it to listen to it. So initially it got this boom of listens, and then it just sort of tailored off. So I don't think people will pick up their phones and sort of, there's nothing to inspire them to go and listen to sort of the unsigned bands. So just sort of that maybe, and to talk about them more. If you listen to a great unsigned band, talk about it, tweet about it, tell your friends, just listen to these, because you might be sort of 70% into them, but you might help your friend discover their favorite band ever. Like my friends in a band down here called Keep Summer Safe released an EP recently, and like the first thing I did after listening to it and thinking this is awesome and telling the guys I think they've done really well was to get it up there on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and just spread the love for a great EP from great guys that I'm really excited about.
Right, so lastly, tell us about your band. Tell us where we can find you: Instagram, Spotify, Facebook, all that stuff. Where can we find you? Sell the band for us. Who are you? What do you do? What sort of sound is it? Where can we find you?
So we are Cuecliche. We were a three-piece band from London. We are currently two, looking for that third. That's not some sort of weird threesome thing. That is band members. So we are at Cuecliche on everything. That's CUECLICHE. And if you're writing that anywhere, it's one word. And there's an asterisk, not an asterisk, there's like a little line on the E at the end. Bothers me no end when that's not there. We sort of called ourselves Cuecliche because we had this intention of being this cliche pop punk, cheesy sort of da sound, and we sort of grew into sort of maybe a bit sort of not. I don't want to go as far as saying post-hardcore, but there's sort of the essence there. The modern day band I would most liken us to would probably be As It Is. They've got sort of that sort of dual vocals and heavier guitar sounds that I think we probably have in some of our stuff. But yeah, I think just that pretty much sums us up. Three-piece pop punk band that maybe gets a bit heavier in places, flirts with post-hardcore a little bit, but not quite. And at Cuecliche everywhere, and I think it's at Cuecliche Band on Facebook.
Okay. Well, Terry, thank you very much for spending your time with us. I really, really appreciate it. Look after yourself, look after your family, and we'll speak to you soon, okay?
Not a problem at all, Pep. Thanks so much for having me. And I think it's a great service here that you're doing this for the front men, because they don't get enough attention. People always want to talk about lead guitarists and drummers, and front men just need this. So thanks, Pep. It's a great service you're offering, and stay safe, man.
You too. Look after yourself. Bye now.
Thanks so much. Bye.